Hey, welcome to episode 128. Yes, the actual 128. Let's see what happens when I put Ian in charge for a night of the Canadian Prepper podcast. We are recording on August the 22nd, 2021. My name's Eric. I'm the host of the show. As a first responder, I witnessed an over-reliance on emergency services during major events and started a small preparedness company to help people get better prepared for at least 72 hours, if not longer.
I'm Alan. I'm a safety nerd, first responder, security expert, and safety trainer. And without looking at my notes, I got that backwards.
Well, at least you said it.
I'm Scott, a first responder, splitting my time between Southern and Northern Ontario. I like learning things, and I don't accept that things will always carry on the way they have, simply because it would be convenient to me.
Hi, I'm Carmen. I'm based in BC. I'm a micro homesteader, wife, domestic guru, from canning to quilting, and yes, I can throw an axe. And I'm glad to be back here this week and join you guys.
Welcome back for your second episode. You want to help support the show and keep the Canadian Prepper podcast on the air? You can buy some swag. We've got the Canadian Prepper podcast t-shirt and the tactical Velcro patch. So you can grab those at prepperpodcast.ca. All the proceeds help keep the lights on and the backup generator fueled.
If you're enjoying the show, please take a few minutes and like us on Facebook. Submit a review on iTunes. We want your feedback, good or bad, or if there's just a topic you want us to cover. You can email us at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca.
All right, so we've got some content that you'll want to swipe right for in this episode. Oh, terrible Tinder there. We're going to start off with some preparedness-related news articles. Next, we'll let you know what we've done for preparedness since the last episode. And then we're going to get into the main topic, finding like-minded individuals. Let's move into the news.
It all started with a spark. Hurricane, I imagine it's being pronounced Henri with the I, has made landfall on the East Coast, Rhode Island, Connecticut, most of those upstate places. Looks like they're going to be wet for a few weeks. This is on the heels of some other flooding in Tennessee and some heavy rains in the area. So they're all preparing for flash floods. The item of note in this is that it's a fairly slow-moving storm, so it's not just a quick dump. It's going to be raining there for a while. So it's just a reminder that we can piss and moan about the weather all we want. I think that's the second official Canadian pastime, is complaining about the weather, but we can't do a damn thing about it. So our next best bet is to be ready for it.
Exactly.
Sounds about right.
Hoping that it dissipates before it gets up to our maritime provinces, and if it does, well, I hope everybody's out there is ready for it.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I've got an article here from Coast Reporter, and it's the title for it is "Emergency Preparedness is a Low Priority for British Columbians."
Well, it's because the government's there to take care of them, isn't it?
Well, exactly. Yes, that's exactly it. So it goes on to it goes on to talk about 22% of British Columbians have established, or only 22% of British Columbians have established a meeting place with family or friends in case of an emergency. Just under 3 in 10 have prepared a plan that includes how to get in touch with family or friends in case of an emergency. And only 38% of British Columbians have bought or prepared an emergency kit with supplies they might need. So pick it up, DC.
I believe it. I'm here.
Put a link to Rapid Survival in there or something.
Yeah, I might put a link in the show notes. Yep.
I'd be interested to see how that compares to other provinces, because
that's what
I bet Ontario's not much better.
No, probably not. Probably worse.
Probably worse.
Yeah.
I think there's certain sections of BC that are a lot more prepared, and then there's other sections where they are like, what's happening?
Well, BC's kind of like Ontario, right? Like you've got you can take, if you take a sample of the entire province, you get one thing, but if you were to break it down between Vancouver and the rest of the province, you'd get two really different answers.
Oh, big time.
Ontario's the exact same way. It's, if you take Toronto out of the equation, we'd have a very, very different situation than when we have to tackle them.
We 100% would.
So I have two articles looking at the supply chain issues. I know I tend to bring them up all the time, but looking at some of the supply chain problems that the virus and natural disasters are causing, and some of the shipping container issues that are continuing to cause trouble for people trying to get any sorts of all sorts of supplies coming from overseas. And it just sort of our just-in-time manufacturing society and trouble with the pandemic and disasters. I was listening to a different podcast, and it was looking at the slow slide of society. And rather than a big cataclysm, it talked about the crumbles. And supply chains breaking down were a big symptom of that. So it really struck me as sort of something that I have concerns about.
Well, there was no milk in my Walmart yesterday. Like none. Zip.
No chicken at my grocery store today either.
No milk. There was a whole 2 bunkers of just hot dogs in the meat section and a bunch of just sausages spread out real thin, if you know what I mean. Like there was like no variety. It was just one whole bunker. And I was like, where's the milk? Like, this is really bizarre. It's like the one thing that people around here anyways come in for the cheaper milk at Walmart. So, but the fact that there was none, like there was no crates in the back you could see, that just hadn't been loaded yet. There was nothing. So I was like, wow, that's a little nuts. Like, where's the truck?
I find that concerning. I mean,
yeah,
it was a little freaky. It was a little freaky. The one section that you expect to have at least something in it was empty.
The Ministry of Plenty is creating intentional shortages.
Well, that's a good reason to discuss what we've done for preps.
I was just going to say, it's a great segue.
So I was out at a restaurant at a workplace dinner for my wife, and I was the +1. Just meeting some people I hadn't met before, chatting with them. And of course, zombie apocalypse came up because I didn't even bring it up, but overheard some complete strangers talking about one of my mag friends and how their plans during a zombie apocalypse are go to go to my friend's place. So it was just a really good lesson in, gray man values and maybe not advertising sort of the potential of having plenty. So it was just an interesting lesson and sort of far more interesting for the podcast than stacking firewood or whatever. On to Eric, who has lots of stuff and lives at address.
Right.
Sorry. No. We can edit that out. Yeah.
Yes, my editing skills are great. I'm going to edit that part out for sure. Yeah. So myself, we started demo on the main floor of the house. So that's why I wasn't around last episode. I was doing the last minute moving of things so that the crew could come in and demo our main floor. So a lot of clearing of last minute things and figuring out we had a lot more than I realized we had. It's funny how quickly you collect things. Did some tightening of the network here, so I had some time and figured I'd do some updates on the equipment and do a quick firewall review and make sure everything's kind of running smoothly that way, because it's always a good thing to double check every once in a while. Don't just set it and forget it because it's going to break. So just tighten that up. And besides that, it's been just lining up contractors and trades and all that kind of fun stuff. So that's my list.
It would help if I unmuted. Then I can talk about what I did.
It certainly would.
A lot of teaching, working, training, and building. I get to put my generator to the test tomorrow. As I get my hydro panel changed over, I get a big upgrade that will help power my new garage, and then finally get framing happening this weekend. And I see Brad in the live chat there. If we're taking applications to replace Ian, yes.
Only if you can get episode numbers right, though.
Yeah, that's a prerequisite.
It is, yeah.
So pick an episode you want to come on, and then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, and just getting it wrong is met with harsh punishment of firing. That's why Ian's not here tonight.
So that's it. I've been crazy busy working. I did manage to get in a couple of jiu-jitsu classes this week, which means that I'm also sore and bruised, and can't get enough of it. Can't wait to go back again next week. That's about where I am.
I prepped up the guest room for guests coming in another week or so, roughly. There should be arriving, which is fun. I canned up 24 quarts of peaches and 18 pints of hamburger. So I've had a busy week in the canning. I also dug some trenches for irrigation in my yard. So I'm a little sore. My arms are just like falling off here. I think my house lives in a bedrock of gravel. So it's just like...
Brutal.
Extremely hard to put the irrigation in.
That should make drainage
yeah.
pretty good though.
Good drainage, yes, that'll be great for the new sod that's coming eventually. And harvested my potatoes, had a good cry about it because they were not anywhere near what I thought they should be. And yeah, and then of course there's the forest fire, so I had to pack up and be ready to evacuate. And that was a big eye opener for me as to what to take, what to have in the house, what to leave behind. That's still marinating at this point. Everything's kind of put semi back where it should be at this point, just because the alert's off. But yeah, that was a little bit. I don't have anywhere to go. Where am I going exactly? Like, what's my plan? Like, oh my gosh, I did not plan for this. I had a huge loophole because I still wanted to be able to go to work still. It wasn't just evacuate the whole area, like bug out. It was, I need to be close by still. I need to go to work still. I need to still facilitate my life. So that difference there is just kind of, it's a big difference. Just being evacuated.
A good sprinkler system will keep you at home.
Well, that's why we're putting that in. So the whole house will be surrounded now. But yeah, it was a little eye-opening as to what I actually packed up and had ready to go for the van that we were borrowing from our friend to come over and help us take some stuff out of the house. So that was a little freaky. 3 kilometers away from my house is a giant raging fire kindling in the woods.
Yeah, that's way too close for comfort.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a good point that you bring up too, is the difference between bugging out and just being evacuated for a period of time. And still wanting to continue normal life. So that's actually
it's a huge difference as to like where am I going to stay that's in town, not the bug out location that's planned, but like in town where I can still go to work and still function. And I was like, whoa. This is not good.
No, that's a really good point. Everybody always thinks about the bug out location and we're just going to go there. But yeah, if it's something like that and you still need to continue normal life, that's something I'm going to start thinking about for my list.
Well, you can get evacuated for anything, right? Like floods and all kinds of stuff, but you still have to go to work probably, or you still have to maintain what's going on around your life. It's not a huge civil issue, but it's just a big difference in what I'm going to be planning now, because I'm in a forest fire district region, so I have to be prepared in this way, and I wasn't, and I was just in shock. I'm like, why didn't I think of this?
Well, there we go. Now everybody, all the listeners can think about it as well and start adding it to their list and their plans.
An evacuation plan.
Yeah. That's
not just
the
bug
whole point
out.
of the podcast, right?
Yep.
Exactly.
Think about these
100%.
things ahead of time.
Yep, exactly. Shall we
So
move into the new segment?
Yeah, so I'm going to bring our WHAM segment. We all talk about our MAGs, Mutual Assistance Group, friends and neighbors close by. If there's someone on the other side of town that you can camp out with for a couple of days while you still go to work, but you can't be at your house, there's your mutual assistance group. But we also want to talk about our WHAM, our wide area mag. That's basically someone who can't necessarily bring you some firewood or a bucket of water, but we can share knowledge. We're here because we love learning things. There's some incredibly intelligent people around here, present company excluded.
Speak for yourself. I'm here because I love hearing the sound of my own voice on recording.
Well, that's the reason why I'm here too. Yeah.
But we know there's lots of smart people out there with skills and talents that we want to learn from. So we're reaching out. We want to hear from you. Feedback at prepperpodcast.ca. We've talked about who doesn't love beef jerky. We want to do an episode on food dehydration. So obviously Rome is going to be in that episode. But like if you have skills and talents, we want to do an episode looking at preppers from around the world and how different cultures, different countries handle it. I was talking to a friend about their South African connections, and they take their preps really seriously.
Oh, for sure.
It's not intimidating. You don't have to be an expert on air. Just tell us about things you know, even if it's just off the air. If you have a great website, a great resource, that's what we want to know. The whole idea of the podcast is to share knowledge with our larger like-minded group. So we want to learn from other smart people.
And so whatever it is that you have to share with us, send it to feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. We'll get it on the air. Tell us if you want us to credit you or not. And tell us if you want to come on the air and talk about it. And if you don't, that's fine. And if you do, that'd be fun too.
So as I will attest, and hopefully Carmen, you kind of get sucked into this. It is really a lot of fun.
It is fun. I really enjoyed it last time. That's why I'm back.
Yeah, we're a fun crew to hang out with on a Sunday evening.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, shall we get the swiping right fingers ready and move into the main topic?
So this topic came out of a discussion with a few of my good friends. We're discussing the concept of the competent man. I make no gender references here. There are far more competent women than men, Carmen. But it's actually a concept in literature to describe that stock character who just seems to know how to do everything. And the quote that started all this from Wikipedia by Robert A. Heinlein: "A human being should be able to change a diaper, plan an engine, butcher a hog, con a ship, design a building, write a sonnet, balance accounts, build a wall, set a bone, comfort the dying, take orders, give orders, cooperate, act alone, solve equations, analyze a new problem, pitch manure, program a computer, cook a tasty meal, fight efficiently, die gallantly. Specialization is for insects."
I like it.
So
I can do most of these things.
Yeah.
Depends on the
I
kind of
can't-
wall.
off air, we're going to work on sonnets. That's fine.
I can't program a computer. This sucks.
That's it. You're out.
Yep.
Off the
That's it.
show forever.
I was going to say, I can barely get mine to work, but anyway. In a situation where self-reliance or mutual reliance is key to survival, an entire set of skills is going to be needed. It's great if you can defend yourself, but it really doesn't help if you freeze to death because you can't split firewood. It's great that you can grow tons of food, but if you have an infected wound because you don't have any first aid knowledge, you're no better off. You can have a generator. Oh, you don't know how to change spark plugs. So the whole idea is that with a mag, you have more people and you can have a whole bigger set of those useful skills at the group's disposal. I would love to have Ben Peterson around to help with wood gas fires and repairing things. Carmen's canning knowledge is certainly going to be an asset to any group that she's part of.
Plus, 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 plus.
Here. So I figured we kind of go through and look at some of the skills, traits, talents that we want to incorporate into our mag, whether we have them and bring them to the party or we find someone else who has that strength and has it to offer up for the group's benefit. I figure we'll cover some of the low-hanging fruit: the food, water, shelter, defense, power, medical, and then we can kind of go further into it if there's other areas that we haven't thought of before. And all of a sudden the person with a certain skill is going to get really popular in town. So starting with water, we need to procure it, clean it, store it. Talk about camping filters. My house is on a well, so I need to make sure I have power if I want to keep the well water going. I've got a little bit of flowing water, but I went out and checked today. We haven't had much rain, and there's just a stagnant pit there. So would I have to walk a kilometer or two to the lake? I'm not sure. So I think water is an important asset to any group in any situation, correct?
I have
100% of this.
110%, yeah.
You're really trying to tick Ian off tonight, aren't you?
If he's not here, I can say whatever the hell I want, right?
Next big one, food. Gardening, looking after livestock, hunting, trapping. I think after our episode on trapping, it's like, oh, maybe it's not as easy as it seems to be in
it's not.
the Cub Scout book. And
In
obviously
what world was it ever
preserving it.
easy?
Well, I mean, it sort of seems
never
like, oh yeah, get some snare wire, you'll be fine.
Yeah, that's all you need, right? That in the forest, right? That's it.
Just setting that wire is so finicky. It's I'm not gonna do it. I'm backing away.
No.
I'm good.
So and then the whole other side of food, preserving it. It's great that you have a wonderful bounty come August, September, but if the rest of the year you don't have that food preserved, you're really no better off for your giant full garden. So I mean, again, looking at canning, at pickling, at some of the other non-refrigeration foods.
Who was the guy from Into the Wild? Remember that movie? And he was the guy that kind of went off grid in Alaska and was like living.
The one that was in the bus.
Yeah, he was living in the old microbus, and as I remember that story, he actually managed to take a moose, but because he didn't have any way of preserving the meat, it went rancid on him, and so he lost all the benefit of that.
Drag the carcass away because he was attracting bears and
he was attracting bears and stuff. Yeah, so it's right. Hunting is one thing, right? Being able to capture an animal is one thing, but doing something with it that is beneficial to you is a, you know, that's one of those stark lessons where he got really, really lucky with that, and then really, really unlucky afterwards.
Well, he could have smoked a lot of that meat if he knew about smoking meat. So
exactly.
He had a bunch of tin boxes around in the background from what I remember in the movie. They had a bunch of stuff around from that what used to be a camp there, and all you need is a nice tall box with a fire at the bottom and the smoke going up. So he could have done a bit more like that, but
which is I think exactly the point, right? Like if we don't have that knowledge, even if I don't put it into practice, as much as we preach practice and try these skills at home before you need them, even if I've got that theory in the back of my head, I can make use of it when I need it.
I think it's knowing how much to put away also. I think that's a big issue where people are like, well, I don't know how much I even eat in a month. I don't know how much I eat in 3 months. I don't know how much I eat in 6 months, let alone.
I think most people don't know that,
You know, I'm going to buy 100 boxes of Kraft Dinner. Okay, well, how many boxes of Kraft Dinner do you normally eat in a year? And they're like, maybe 4. You know, like, it's not my favorite. I'm like, then why are you buying 100?
Because it's cheap. It's readily available. It doesn't go bad.
And it's currently on sale.
To love it. Yeah,
and it's on sale.
Really love that. But yeah, it just goes
good
to
for
waste
bartering.
after a while. Yeah, that would be a barter thing in Canada.
Absolutely. You know, the new currency after the fall of civilization.
Kraft Dinner.
I thought it was going to be optimum points.
I got 5 I got 5 boxes. What are you going to give
me? So another obviously important attribute for any group, shelter, security, warmth, energy efficiency. I mean, in our year-long tabletop exercise, we were talking about how you make your house ready for winter so that you're not having to heat space you're not using, that kind of thing. So what are some talents from shelter, home maintenance that you guys want in your mag?
Backup carbon monoxide detectors. I was trying to figure out where I was going to fit it in there, and I got it.
Don't we all have those?
22 minutes in. 22. It's pretty good.
So for the over-under crowd.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah,
I think it's someone that knows how to do roofing or knows how to be on a roof or how to fix a roof would be one of the first things, because I have no clue. And if something were to even hit my house and I had to repair my roof, like a fallen log or a tree on one corner of it, for instance, how would I fix that? It could be a small hole even, and I'd be devastated.
So there's knowing how to do it is one item, because roofing repair is actually really straightforward. It's not hard at all. The willingness to go up on a roof, especially in a storm, is something entirely different and also worthy of discussion. So, so having somebody that's not only knowledgeable but willing and able to do it. You won't find me up on a lot of roofs. That's not my thing. I pay people to do that.
After a big windstorm, I didn't even go home. My neighbor said we'd lost some shingles. I went straight to buy shingles because by the next morning everything was sold out, and no one was available. It didn't matter how much money you threw at the problem. There was no one else that was coming. They're all booked absolutely solid because everyone had lost a bunch of shingles. I had the same problem with my septic system here, and I had to figure out how to do the repairs myself because help wasn't available. It's not because there's a big disaster. It's just schedules and that sort of thing. So having that skill set and being able to work through a problem or talk someone through a simple problem. Someone had a running toilet, it was just a flapper valve. Like, well, turn off the water of the toilet. It's not leaking out of the plumbing system. That'll just stop it from running up your water bill.
Yep. Simple things like that.
As long as your valve works, and what happens if the water shutoff doesn't work? Because, boy, that's happened to me before.
Well, at that point, you just throw it in, buy a new house.
Yeah,
That's how that works, right?
Burn it all down. Yep,
Yeah,
start
burn it all
again.
down. Yep.
Another topic, defense. Knowing your equipment, being able to reload if you're in a low resource situation, how to repair things.
Yep.
I think we'd all agree that if society starts breaking down because 9 meals ago people started getting hungry, that's an important skill set to have in ag, and especially lone wolf hideout in your bunker in the woods versus have a group, which tends to be really good for security.
Yeah, well, you're going to need multiple eyes to watch all the corners of the property, right? Can't do that alone.
Everybody has to sleep at some point.
Yep, that too.
What's the word? What's the rule? 4 a.m. is the best time to attack,
Or go to sleep.
That's why it's the best time to attack.
Figured I'd give you that one.
Power. It's great that we have generators, but you can run out of fuel. You can have multiple fuel sources. You need to be able to ration what you're doing. So whether you run a generator just for an hour or two, charge batteries, cool off your fridge and freezer, and then start saving fuel, running a solar system, fuel storage.
With gasifiers.
Absolutely.
Propane.
That is.
Yeah.
That's the only reason Scott came out to this episode.
It's going to be a lot harder to get that in every episode rather than carbon monoxide, but I'm up to the
challenge accepted.
There we go. All right, I'll start the poll, and we'll do an over/under every episode.
So, what other aspects of power are, skills or talents that you guys want to see? I mean, if you have a big enough group, having an electrician would probably be handy.
I was just going to say, I want to know somebody that knows how to hook it up safely, so I'm not going to burn anything down or electrocute myself. And so that's important. Is someone that understands how electricity works, how to hook things up properly, and how not to have me zap myself.
I'm way more concerned about damaging the equipment than I am myself when it comes to electricity. I can, you don't touch the bare wires, you really can't get shocked. Your worst case.
Don't never say never.
your general worst case is that you're going to short out you're going to ground out the circuit, which isn't necessarily bad unless you've got equipment hooked up to that, and now you've made whatever it is that you wanted to use.
Well, you've discovered that it works on smoke, and you just let the smoke out.
Yeah. Is there such a thing as a fridge gasifier?
Oh boy.
No.
So for this new contest, is it double points if Alan mentions wood gasifiers or Scott mentions CO?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Let us know it. Feedback at prepperpodcast.ca. Okay. Subject near and dear to my heart, obviously, medical. Having some first aid background, looking at kind of that Dr. Alton long-term, there's no help coming medical needs, being able to reuse medical equipment that's meant to be single use. Everything in here is all single use, sterile, disposable. So my question back during the canning episode is, I understand that lids are be single use, but if you're in a situation where that is just not an option, what skills and talents do you need? Looking at home remedy cures with things that are available and procurable. If you can grow something in your yard that is helpful for whatever the medical issue is, that is a huge asset to you and your mag. So what are some of the other medical things that are going to make medical people popular in their mags?
Well, I think it goes back to the old, witch doctor in the woods type of thing, where women knew their herb lore and their what plants in the woods were, for this or for pain or for upset stomach, etc., and just drying them and putting them into tea like the Chinese did so well. I think that kind of herb lore, I've got a couple of books on it, is very interesting. I haven't actually ingested it myself, but I'm tempted on some things just for like upset tummies and headaches. I might try those teas. But other things, I'm just like, that doesn't seem like it would work. It's more in the brain, like, oh, I took this tea, so I should feel better. So more of a placebo effect sometimes if you want to really help people sometimes. But there are books out there, which is quite nice to have as a backup.
Brandy and 22 LR. 2-piece first aid kit.
Oh boy. See everybody on tour next week.
I love that old knowledge, that exact stuff you're talking about, Carmen, that 100 years ago, how they deal with this problem, so that if society collapses and we have to survive like it's 100 years ago, where's that knowledge? And I love that type of book that isn't reliant on something that has to be at the pharmacy, shipped from wherever.
India,
Wait, does this
China.
mean that we can start stocking cocaine and leeches again?
Allegedly.
Leeches are easy to keep, actually.
leeches are easy, but like 100 years ago, cocaine was a legitimate prescribable drug. And frankly, I want that back.
Oh, I was kidding about catching us on tour next week, but it might actually be a thing now.
All right. Well, how about some good, clean fun then with repairs? Having tools, spare parts, the knowledge to use them, electrical systems, water systems, plumbing, welding, vehicle repair, modification, with that set of talents that might be useful to someone else when cash is meaningless.
Absolutely. I think the parts is the big one, right? A lot of things can be repaired, but it's a whole lot simpler, faster, and safer if you can just swap a part out. Also, it means that you're operationally ready, and then you can take that damaged part and repair it when you have time. So I think Ian had a really good setup for how he stores spark plugs and stuff and spare parts for his generators, right? It's all labeled, it's all easy to find, and all the stuff that's interoperable is grouped together. Yeah, spare parts. How do you find them? Where do you get them? Especially locally, right? If it's one thing to be cannibalizing your neighbor's vehicle if it happens to be a similar year and year, make, and model, but knowing where to come across those legitimately in places that won't get you assaulted for what you're doing is probably a really good idea as well.
Pick and pull.
Yep.
Well, I'll jump ahead a little to trade and bartering.
Yep.
The ability to swap assets for something else that meets both parties' needs. So having extra somethings available, spare parts being, if you're the guy in town that has all the spark plugs, like that's pretty handy. Ian had got me onto that idea when he made
Also
a comment about
Target.
It does, yep.
That's very true. So I mean, you mix your gray man with your your asset
Market
trading.
man.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ian had gotten me onto the episode when he was talking the year-long emergency episode where he was talking about bartering firewood. If you have an extra cord of firewood and someone is ill prepared, that is of tremendous value to them. So, having someone who can trade and barter or, wander out to the markets, a useful skill within your mag.
Yeah. I think 100% that's worthwhile to have. That's a good skill.
You might want someone that likes to travel and take your wares from your area to another area to trade and get something that you need. Kind of like what the native tribes or the First Nations tribes used to do a lot, is they had their guy go to the coast to get the seashells and stuff like that, and they brought their hides there, that kind of a thing. I think if it did really fall apart, you'd end up with traders also within your mag that were willing to go out there with some security maybe and trade for other goods in other communities, and you'd have a little powwow amongst yourselves as to what you're trading for and getting and coming back to your compound or bunker, whatever you want to call it at that point, the farm, and taking care of things that way, because you'd have to have someone that's brave enough to go out there and trade. Maybe you might need that guy. I don't
Yep.
want to go.
Yeah, but you're 100% right. You are going to need that person that's able to go out, trade things, put the salesman hat on and get things out there and make good choices and good trades on items. That's definitely something to think about.
Well, and have the knowledge to go out there, and maybe they have something in mind, but what else would be valuable enough to trade this asset for and bring home if it's not what we had intended?
Yep.
Comms and information. In a sort of societal collapse situation, having ham radio and being able to collect information, if there's no internet, there's no cell towers, I think 98% of society would be in a whole lot of trouble.
You're freaking out.
Knowledge is power. We've talked about the ability to discern what's happening in a situation so you can make effective decisions. You can't do that without information. So not everyone in the mag needs to do that, but if one person is able to collect that information, it's tremendously valuable to the group.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, 100% it is. That's a skill that you're going to have in your mag for sure. Just look at how much people freaked out when that big Rogers thing happened where they were down for, what was it, a couple hours?
It was like 14 hours, but yeah, it was enough.
Yeah. Freaked everybody out, right? And
yep.
And that's just 14 hours of no comms, or no comms of what they're used to using anyways.
So all of a sudden, if you have HF radio and you're able to hear news from a significant distance where maybe things are still intact, but, oh yeah, Eastern Seaboard, this is happening, that's a tremendously valuable asset to bring into your mag.
And it's also news that's not from mainstream media that's possibly been polished a certain way.
To answer Brad's question in the live chat, Scott is approximately 94 years old.
Yep.
And he says things like, well, Sonny, and back in my day, and when I was a young whippersnapper.
Yep.
All true.
Yeah. But don't worry, he's got those speed tennis balls on his walker, so it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
I can outrun the forest fire. That's it. Yeah.
That's pretty quick.
Yep.
So what are some of the other skills that you guys would like to see in your mag? I picked all the low-hanging fruit already. It is hard being a supermodel. That's okay. We can cover that separately. What are some of the other skills, talents, attributes that would be valuable in one of these scenarios?
For me, it's the fiber and needle arts, making yarn, making fabric, making threads, knowing how to sew, how to make your clothes, how to make your shoes, how to make blankets, how to basically clothe the person and your multiple layers of quilting to keep yourself warm in the winter, and the knowledge of tying fine threads for making nets, those kind of things, even those trapping nets, things like that for fishing, etc. You can make some very fine thread if you know how to do your fiber arts and how to process process wool into yarn, for instance. That's a skill that I would like to learn, but I don't know it yet. But I do know how to use it once it's made. Just don't know how to make it yet. It's too simple in today's society. It's too cheap to go to Walmart and get a $3 ball of yarn. I'm just like, well, it would take me about 6 hours to make that probably if I made it by myself. So
that's a good point.
Yeah.
And it's interesting when you look at some of the prepper porn literature where people are envisioning a really bad scenario. Yeah, if you have an awfully long hike and your shoes wear out and you don't have Walmart to go and buy another pair of shoes, what are you doing? How are you repairing that? You're going to run out of layers of duct tape eventually.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. You just add more duct tape then. That's how that works, right?
Stockpile more duct tape, or learn how to make duct tape.
Brad in the live chat's got a good point. Childcare and teaching.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
I think anyone who's been homeschooling their children at any point realizes the value of that talent in others.
Yep.
I think it's also really important. We've talked a lot about the hard skills and the must-haves. We're also kind of ignoring, and it's something that we tend to ignore in general when we're preparing, is the soft skills, right? It's one thing to say we have all this stuff to do. It's quite another to realize that a lot of survival time is intense boredom, because there's simply nothing to do and you can only chore for so long. So being able to do things like childcare and teaching, and having somebody that can make the best of a bad situation, somebody that keeping people around you that have a really good attitude, is immeasurably beneficial.
Alan, you had talked about that exact scenario where you're hunkered down for a cold, lonely winter, and what are the things you have to do to keep yourself sane? Be it board games, puzzles, movies.
Sonnets.
Sonnets. That's why it's on the list.
That's why it's on the list.
Writing sonnets, and being able to change your guitar strings so that you can keep yourself entertained.
Mm-hmm.
Or be like Davey and make a bong out of anything. Yes, I love it.
There you go.
I do like Brad's comment about logistics and scavenging.
Supply chain is number one.
Yep.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
knowing how to find parts, make parts, free cycling, getting obtainium, whatever you can find to work with. I love my wood gasifier idea, but if you can't find metal to make it out of, that really doesn't help you any.
Yep. Yeah, I was going to say somebody who knows the lay of the land and where to go for certain things that may not necessarily be easily found at times. And someone who knows the history of the area that you're in. Very useful.
Absolutely. Makes me think, where's the closest car scrapyard around here? And in that scenario, you can find all sorts of lovely items to pick at and repurpose.
Also, do you drive a car that nobody else on the road drives, which not only sticks out, but also doesn't have spare parts kicking around for it?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
There are a lot of farms around here that have 15 of the same vehicle that people just acquire as they go, and they can rob parts from it as they need to. So if you find one that's your make and model, then if you can get it for a good price, do it. Rob all the parts out of it.
And Brad's got a good point in the live chat here too. Stores and quotes are everywhere. You just have to think outside the box. It's true.
And be able to run really fast.
Not that we're advocating you do anything illegal.
No, but if you have things to barter and trade for both parties' benefit.
Yep.
Exactly.
Then we got
Being
another.
able to run really fast is a talent to have.
And Freja here says, drive around frequently and write down assets you see nearby. Great point.
Well, this is great for berry bushes and big sections of the wildlife where you're hiking. You're like, oh, there's a huge strawberry patch on this hillside, and just mark it in the brain, kind of a thing, as to where to go if you ever needed it.
Yeah,
just don't drive through a neighborhood really slowly with binoculars making notes. It's a really good way to get the police called.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
Anyway, we had joked about this episode being about Tinder and hooking up with like-minded people. We've discussed a whole bunch of the skills and talents we would like to have within our mags. What are some ways of meeting these like-minded people and expanding our mutual assistance group so that we have all of these talents at our disposal?
So step 1 is make a Tinder account. Step 2 is the username has to be something to do with Prepper. And step 3 is swipe right, swipe right, swipe right. No?
No.
Okay. All right, then. I quit.
That sounds like trouble.
Was it Tinder or was it that other app?
Only because my wife is listening. This is a very bad idea.
It's not good.
All right. So some actual ways to meet like-minded individuals. So,
obviously, listening to this podcast.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it exists, as long as we're still broadcasting.
Yeah, it's good to see the live chat. Everybody's kind of talking amongst themselves, which is neat. And then get the odd comment for us to read out is always good too. So
love that.
It's fantastic.
But in all seriousness, local interest groups, whether it's sort of something very near and dear to prepping, or just other people who like camping, the outdoors, canning, preserving,
conservation societies. There are fishing and angling clubs all over the place, and even if you're not an angler, one, probably a good idea to be able to do that, a good skill to have, but also somebody who's an angler is probably also interested in other outdoor things, and that's a good way to meet somebody that is also interested in outdoor things.
Yeah. I think where everybody gets hanged up on this part of the preparedness plan is everybody thinks you have to look for something that says we're into preparedness, we're into emergency preparedness, we're into that kind of thing. It's not necessarily that you have to go out and look for only prepper groups. There's all kinds of other places you can go and look, and most likely people in those groups are going to be interested in having a little extra stockpile of things, or they're going to be able to teach you a skill or something like that.
Yeah,
and I think when
go ahead.
I think when you have discussions with people, every now and then a little keyword drops. Someone mentions something like mag, and you just suddenly know, that secret handshake that, oh, you've thought about this before.
100%.
And self-reliance is not something unique to preppers. Maybe it's sort of at the heart of what we like, but I think a lot of people take self-reliance as an asset, and whether how far they choose to get, who knows?
Yeah, that's like the SOS group on Facebook, the Stocking Our Shelves book club on there. There's a lot of us on there, and there's a lot of information being shared, a lot of things being, oh, this store is out, so go to this store. This is what's happening in my state, my province, etc. And this is Australia, North America, etc. So I think they have, I'm just going to check real quick here. I think it's close to 183,000 members. So this is a Stocking Your Shelves group on Facebook that is literally around the world. And the information's there. You start commenting with someone, you start texting with them, all of a sudden you're personal messaging with them. Oh, you're right in my valley also. What do you do for this? How's your garden doing? How's your cucumbers doing? And you just start talking. And I think that kind of osmosis can happen within these larger groups. If you're commenting on something, you see something, and you can connect that way. I've got 3 or 4 just online friends now that I know are doing the same thing. They're canning, they're getting their garden together, they're scared about what's coming ahead of us here for economics, and same thing in the quilting group kind of a thing. You hear a couple of comments here and there. Oh, well, I made a quilting thing for my canning. I made this for that. And you're like, oh, you're into that too. And it's just commenting and finding these people that have a common thing going on.
I think it's really important whenever you're joining a group, do it with the right intentions, right? Yes, I want to increase my availability of resources, but I also want to be an asset to somebody else. Give information, give, and then ask. If you're just that guy that shows up and starts demanding things, nobody likes that person, and you're not going to be welcomed into that group, because there's a good chance that group is already pretty tightly knit, and they already have probably a little subset of a group that is exactly like the group of people you want to be associated with, but they have no reason to trust you, just like you have no reason to trust them.
It's a great
Build
point.
that relationship first, and then ask about it.
And then get their starter for bread.
No, that's a great point.
Other places that you can connect with people that are like-minded, ham radio clubs. I think I'm just stealing that from Eric because I didn't realize that his name was there. That was under mine. I'm sorry.
Hold on. You thought I wouldn't talk about ham radio clubs?
Well, I figured that I could get it before. I didn't see your name. I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's fine. You can have that one. Steal my thunder. Go for it. Nobody suspected I would say ham radio group, so it's fine.
So most people that are into ham radio are already people that are thinking about what happens when phones don't work. And if you're thinking about what happens when phones don't work, you're probably thinking about what happens when roads don't work, and when you can't pay for things, and when you can't get deliveries. And so there's a good chance that that group of people also has an interest in the same things that you do. So
Yep.
make connections, and that also gives you an opportunity to practice with your equipment and become proficient with it, which might be the second time ever we've talked about that.
This episode,
This segment. Yeah.
This segment.
Davey in live chat mentions drive around looking for ham antennas coming from houses.
Oh,
But-
really
But
good.
again, don't like slow down with binoculars making notes. That's just weird.
I have to relocate my antennas now. You got a good point.
Look for that hedgehog house.
Yep.
It's there. Our good friend has a literal hedgehog house.
What I found is that most search and rescue people are generally well prepared, and they generally value good planning and preparation. And as we said, like I think we said at the beginning, this all came about because somebody was talking about somebody else and their stockpile. So just be wary of what information you're giving out and know who's getting that information. They're gonna hopefully that person has the same reservation with you until you know each other.
Yep.
It's a good sign.
Yeah. As well, online sites. Obviously, be careful with this one. But sites like meetup.com, they have a specific section specifically for preppers. So that's meetup.com/topics/preppers. And there's all kinds of stuff in there. There are some for Ontario in there as well. So I don't know if there's other provinces in Canada that are covered. I would imagine there are some, but check that out. But obviously approach that with caution because you never know who's on the internet.
Make sure your VPN and firewall are up to date before you go on sites like that.
Well, hey, internet people are weird.
Yeah, Eric.
I'm just going to say that. And then in-person meetups. So, for example, the annual Preppers meet that was happening here in Ontario pre-COVID, always a great spot to go and meet like-minded people because, well, they went to a prepper meet. So, you know.
And Brad makes a good point in the live chat too, right? Go to a swap meet or set up a swap meet if you can find one that has. If there's a swap meet that for things that you're looking for, then there's somebody else there that's looking for it as well. And if that's the case, then you might be able to find somebody there that you can swap recipes with, for lack of a better term. Is that the term we're going with now, is swapping recipes?
Sure, why not? That's the code word now. Swapping recipes.
That's what the kids are calling it these days.
Yeah. So now it's the Canadian Swapping Recipes podcast. Yeah, that's...
In the comments, Freya mentions getting to know your local firms. If we're in a situation where they have more food or animals than they can manage, sort of having that relationship is a great thing. I've been going to my local farmers market just to get all the local stuff around here and sort of start building those relationships and that rapport.
Farmers markets, know who your local people are, and usually they have like, oh, you can come down to like the local one, Griffin Farms, and get your peaches, order your peaches now, that kind of thing. That's where I got my peaches from this year, and they're fantastic. And that kind of a thing is know where your local produce is coming from. Is kind of a really nice thing to do. I try and do a bit of it, but it's not as much as it probably should be. But I'm trying to grow my own, so. But it's good to know they got 100 peach trees over there just in the other valley. So I don't think those are going to go anywhere, even if they were taken out. So it's good to know that your local farmers and what they have, and what you're able to barter with them if possible.
Yep. Yeah, a lot of this is kind of picking up the gift of gab, right? And just learning to talk to people. And then as you talk to them, you start to build a rapport with each other, and then you start to learn from each other. So it's just a matter of not being afraid to get out there and just chat with people.
Yeah, and hey, if you have your wood gasifier powered 1972 truck and you can deliver produce into the center of town, you're going to be offering them a very valuable asset, and they're going to give you something back in return.
So are we at 3 now for the number of times you've mentioned wood gasifiers?
I think that's 5.
Holy, I can't. Yeah, me and Matt don't add up. So
what episode number?
That's right, Mr. 127.
Mm-hmm. All right. Anything else from the panel?
I think we're just degenerating at this point.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think having someone in your mag who's developed a tolerance to CO, kind of like Dread Pirate Roberts to iocane powder, just think of what you could do.
Oh boy.
Sorry, trigger warning.
Tolerance to carbon monoxide is
Yeah.
not a thing. It will kill you. It will hurt the entire time you're dying.
Inconceivable.
It's really a good thing that this is virtual and you guys can't punch each other.
You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Oh man. Well, shall we move into the podcast challenge that's being typed right now?
I just saw that.
Absolutely.
Get through this entire episode. That's your challenge for this week.
This is the most prepared people.
Oh yeah.
Come up, think of some skills and some assets that you have that you can share with your mag and what you are missing and what you need for yourself. Find somebody to share that with and find somebody that you can learn from. I assume that's what the rest of that was supposed to say.
Exactly, word for word.
Okay.
Probably right.
I already
Perfect.
married him.
Well done.
Well, la-di-da. Now Carmen's the
there we
new
go.
Ian.
Look at that, yeah.
He's got computer skills. I got the rest.
Well, there you go.
No, he's,
right,
he's
what-
pretty awesome mechanical guy too, so he's pretty good that way. So I'm good. I'll make it. Hopefully.
All right, what do we got for upcoming events?
There's one upcoming event. Thanks,
Let me-
Trudeau.
yeah.
Maple Seed, maybe, we hope so. Maple Seed Rifleman courses, great way to go out and learn some stuff, become a better shot, understand how to make the shot that you want. Check them out, mapleseedrifleman.com/events. Hopefully they're still happening. If not, you know who to blame.
Yep.
Yep.
I take my pal this week.
Right.
Fantastic.
I'm
I'm
jealous.
excited. I'm super excited. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Nice.
So I'm super excited. So then I'll have to go see what this is.
I'm not sure you would need a pal to go to a Maple Seed event, but it certainly wouldn't hurt.
Probably not, but
No.
I should at least know something.
Fair enough. All right, so move into shout outs.
Local friend here, Brent J. He's kind of a really awesome dude in general, but he is one of these guys that likes to make his own gear, and he makes some pretty interesting things. And that's I'm excited to see what he's cooking up next because he's always got something in the fire. So that's Brent. He's awesome. One day maybe he'll be on.
He sounds like the competent man.
He
There you
is
go.
very much the competent man.
All right, I got a quick shout out to listener Aaron and Oren. So they sent an email in to me a couple weeks ago. I've received a few more emails from them asking if I got the original email. Yes, I did, and I have replied to it multiple times. So check your spam folder. If not, we'll try some alternate way to connect. But just a quick shout out, and figure this would be the best way to get that message to you because your email doesn't seem to be working.
I'm gonna shout out my mag friends who inspired this topic. This this whole thing came out of a discussion with them, and they're pretty awesome people. So I'm glad to have them around.
I have a shout out to Good to Go Co. They went and sent along an emergency poncho with my last order of hard wheat that I got from them. It was just a little extra present in the box, which was kind of nice to get. And I needed that for the new car get home bag. So that was awesome. I didn't have to go find one now. And they do
Nice.
have a lot to offer. So check out their website. They have quite a bit on there, and their wheat's been quite nice actually. So, and they still have all American canners in stock there, and I can't find them anywhere else. So they're one of the few places that still has the All Americans. I think they have 5 or 6 of each kind there still. So
Interesting.
get them
I
while you
think-
can. 'Cause there's
I
a
think we
18-month backlist on them on other places.
Oh geez.
Hosting this show has put quite the dent in my pocketbook. I always learn something new every Sunday. I have to go buy it.
Isn't that the opposite of the goal here?
Payday preps.
Yep.
I think we made an error in the Good to Go Co website in last week's notes. So I think when I clicked on it, it took me somewhere else. So we'll have to make sure we
Okay.
have the proper website in the shout out here, because you're right. They have an awesome website or awesome supplies.
Or if it's wrong, Google it and don't rely on somebody else to get you there.
Self-sufficiency?
go.
What?
Wait a minute.
What? That's not what we talk about here.
No, not at all.
Nobody thinks for themselves here.
No. All right, let's move into email and iTunes reviews. So we've got an email here from a listener. It says, listening to your most recent episode and perked up when you mentioned that X number of COVID exposures were linked to the Calgary Stampede. Is there contact tracing done for all your exposures in Canada? I'm in the U.S., a cop in a major East Coast resort city, and work in an emergency room. I had COVID last year, and not one single official even verbally asked me where I thought I got it. And that's signed off Sergeant Mack. So, yes, there's definitely contact tracing here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I have no idea how robust it is. I always get leery when we start delving into COVID here, just because I don't know that we have enough expertise to say. But hopefully,
I have firsthand anecdotal knowledge that it is happening on a pretty consistent basis. It's not in any way thorough, but it is happening, and it's a casual link at best. But we're past the point where correlation doesn't equal causation. I think we've thrown that logic out the window for the last 18 months, and now if you sneezed, you are automatically sick. So whether there's a benefit to this contact tracing or not is a little is much more of a debate, but it is happening to an extent. Yeah,
100% it is. And I think it was happening more so at the beginning when the numbers are lower and is easier to track back. It's a lot harder to do now, but
it is.
There's still a bit of a background being done.
Yep. And then we also got an email from an anonymous listener, and it says, "Hello, I just listened to the show with Cameron on canning." That would be a great show all by itself, just for the record. "And had some questions you could hopefully pass on to her or answer yourself. My wife does very good soups and stews, and we would like to can them. The soups have bacon, beef, ham, and sometimes dairy in them. With everything pre-cooked when she makes the soup, would you still need to pressure cook them, or could you just get away with a water bath? Also, would the best before date be the same as normal canned food? We already do water bath for vegetables, apple juice, applesauce, but never attempted pressure canning. I enjoy listening to your podcast instead of the radio. Find it on par with my way of thinking. Always looking for better ways and different ideas. I was a volunteer firefighter for 10 years. Tried to target shoot and hunt when the time and budget allows. New ham radio operator as well. So all in all, the podcast is extremely relatable." Well, why aren't you on the show, anonymous listener? Let's get you on. Send us another email.
As I was thinking, I was like, come on over.
we can put an anonymous listener up for your name.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be on camera. So
also true.
You don't have to be on camera.
So as it happens, and obviously anonymous listener could not have predicted this last week, Carmen is here and can answer that directly. So Carmen, bacon, beef, ham, sometimes dairy, water bath, pressure can, what else?
I would not do the dairy, just because it will sometimes change texture when it gets pressure canned, especially if it's pre-cooked into something. The bioproteins will go bad. As you know, milk turns into cheese eventually, and that kind of process that happens can turn ugly. The ham, the beef, the bacon, as long as it is cut extremely small pieces, you could get away with it. But a soup like this, you want to have no noodles in it, no rice, no grains, nothing like that. You can do your vegetables and your meats all you want. You can always add your noodles when you open it up. So, and it would have to be pressure canned. This is a low acid thing. Even if there is some tomatoes in there, for instance, on some of these kind of fancier soups, it's still considered low acid with that meat in there. And that meat would have to be processed for the full 90 minutes for quarts and pints, etc., according to what your area is for altitude, that kind of thing. But it would be pressure canned. But I would stay away from any grains or dairy, period, for canning. That can always be stored and done later, especially noodles and rice and stuff like that. Just keep them out of the soup until you're ready to make the soup.
Good to
You
know.
can always add it when you heat it up.
That's a great answer. Awesome.
All right. Well, with that, I'll bring episode number 128 of the Canadian Prepper podcast to an end. You can find the podcast on iTunes, Podbean, Spotify, or of course your favorite podcast app. Please help us out. Submit a review. It helps other people find us.
We do record these shows live on Facebook and YouTube. Shockingly, still both. We haven't been kicked off either platform yet. If you want an early peek at the shows, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Canadian Prepper Podcast, and click the notifications tab. Gives you an alert when we're going live. Facebook, I imagine, has the same thing. I don't know. Hopefully it does. Do the thing there as well. You can contact me at Alan, that's with one L, at prepperpodcast.ca. Eventually, I do respond to those emails.
And if you do want to reach me, I'm at microsteading@gmail.com, and I would love to connect with anyone, frankly. Just please send me an email.
I just want your love and attention.
Careful what you ask for. This is the weird internet.
That's my email, though. It's the internet. Yeah, be careful what you ask for. Yep. But no, I do want to connect with other people, and if they do have any further canning questions, I can refer them to the rules or that kind of a thing if they need it. So, yeah, I don't mind. It's sharing information is the fun part.
It's the whole point of this.
Mm-hmm.
Sure is.
I'm going to be working on my sonnets. If you need to give some feedback on those, feedback at prepperpodcast.ca.
Right. And you can get me on the live chat at rapidsurvival.com, or you can email me at feedback@prepperpodcast.ca. So thanks for joining us this evening. Until next time, be prepared, stay safe,
and keep learning.